YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So as you can see from the thumbnail, we are talking about people with dwarfism and the representation in the media. Now, Peter Dinklage, one of the biggest stars of Game of Thrones, who has achondroplasia, has voiced concerns about Disney trying to do a remake of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in live action form. So we don't know if they're going to use actual dwarfs in the movie or what. So he was basically talking about how he feels like him trying to branch out and do these different roles that are not stereotypical to people of his stature, that they would turn around and make this kind of movie. As you know, the last few years Disney has been making real life versions of a lot of classic films that they have. All right. So there are some little people who disagree with Peter Dinklage, saying that, they like playing the elf, or they like playing something like in Willy Wonka, the Oompa Loompas and things of that nature. Now, we all know that back in the day, maybe about 100 or so plus years ago, when the carnival, the circus was really popular, anybody with any kind of physical disability or physical difference that wasn't like the average person was in the freak show or the carnival, freaks of the carnival or whatever. So oftentimes people that had dwarfism that's how they made their livelihood back then. So fast forward to now, you have more representation. You have shows like The Little Women of Atlanta. The shows like the Seven Johnstons, I believe is the name, on TLC, where we see just a regular family. The only difference between them and the average people is the height. So the question is, is it okay in the climate that we're in, with everything being extremely politically correct, is it okay to have people that actually have dwarfism in a movie titled Seven White and the Snow Dwarfs? It made me think back to the movie Elf with, I forget his name. This is the reason why I need to do notes before I come on here. But anyway, that movie Elf. Peter Dinklage was actually in that, but he did not play an elf. In that movie, they just made the people smaller, but they still looked average size. You have to see the movie. So they didn't actually have dwarfs in the movie outside of Peter Dinklage, but he played like a businessman with power and prestige. So now I have to kind of talk about this. Definitely, and not in the perspective of someone that's a little person, because I am not a little person. I do not know how it is to live like one, so I can't speak for them or anything like that. But I did want to bring the discussion up because, like I said, we're in a time where everything is extremely inclusive. One of my favorite sayings is, there's pros and cons to everything. I think there's pros to that and there's cons to that, to being inclusive. Is that it's like, on one hand you want to celebrate differences, but then on the other hand you don't want to cause attention to the differences because they're marginalized, these people are oppressed, blah, blah, blah. It's very hectic right now. This is how I feel. And I feel the same way on some of my past videos when I talked about like black film and how I feel like you do have room for slavery films because there's so many other films out there with black people, love stories. There's black horror is really big. Jordan Peele really pushed that out there. I see a lot of black horror coming out now, black fantasy. So I feel like showing a slave movie is not going to take us back 200 years or so. So I'm going to kind of come at that with the dwarfism thing. I do feel like we do need to see more little people in regular roles where it's not, their role isn't about them being short. I don't think we have enough representation of little people outside of those reality shows that I named. Peter Dinklage also, as you can see, I keep naming him because I can't name too many people with achondroplasia that are doing different things. But He was in a movie on Netflix called I Care a Lot, which is a great film. He was awesome in that. But I don't know, as far as the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I think either way you do it, somebody's going to be offended. I think if they use people that have actual achondroplasia, they're probably going to be offended because, again, it's a movie based around them being short and based around them being, like in Willy Wonka, it wasn't so much about them being short, but they were looked at as like these little, Willy Wonka's little helpers. And you know, we see people with achondroplasia play the roles of elves and things like that all the time. So I do feel like we need to see more of them in just regular movies. Reality shows are cool and everything, but put them in regular roles. Put little people in a role where they're the love interest or they're the hero. They save the day. They're the mad scientist. They're the cop. They're the detective. We do need to see that. I really can't speak on the Seven Dwarfs thing. Like I said, I try to come from a place of experience. So since I do not have that experience, I won't speak on that. But I wanted to make this video because hopefully someone with achondroplasia can run across this. And let's have a discussion. Do you feel that little people need to have more representation of just being in regular roles before we start making remakes of Wizard of Oz? And the Munchkins and Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas and the Doors and elves at Christmas time. What do you think? Please let me know in the comments. I am very excited to have this discussion because I don't really see people talking about this topic too often. All right, as always, peace and blessings. Until next time, y'all.